Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Northfield. My name is Mary Jane Lipinski, and my husband, Bill, and I have been joyfully connected to this community for 8 years. UUFN is an inclusive community that nurtures spiritual and intellectual growth and fosters ethical and social responsibility. If you are a visitor, either on-site or online, we are glad you are with us, and we invite you to stay after the service to get acquainted. We welcome your questions and look forward to getting to know you. Later in the service today, we will take our Share the Plate offering as a way to care for the wider world. Each month, we share our offering with an organization that embodies UU values in the world. This month's recipient is the Minnesota chapter of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. The AFSP works to prevent deaths by suicide and to support all those whose lives have been impacted by it. They bring hope and healing into places of despair and pain. You can read more about their legislative advocacy work and the extensive resources they offer on their website. During the offering later, you may put cash or a check in the basket or donate online from our website, uunorthfield.org. If you are paying your pledge by check, please note in the memo line either capital pledge or annual pledge. There will also be instructions on the screen during the offertory time. I call your attention to the announcements in your order of service and weekly email. There you'll find more information about the following. Join Reverend Sarah for what has become a summer tradition of gathering for coffee and conversation. Stop by Hideaway Coffee House Tuesday at 10 a.m. And UUFN is hiring. Please spread the word that we are looking for a new religious education educator. Paper copies of the job description are available in the back of the sanctuary, or the online link is available in the July Reach. Join us next Sunday, July 28th, for How to Be Hopeful in Today's World with Mary Dorr and Sue Coleman. Again, welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Northfield. Our opening words are The Great Teachers in Life by Jason Cook. We seekers are on a quest to discover truth and meaning. Sometimes we think we've found it, wrapped up glimmering with newness, straight off the intellectual assembly line, all the answers right here for us and others, if they'd only listen. But truth has a way of coming in disguise, sometimes wearing rags and sometimes finery, but so often cloaked from our immediate sight. And sometimes that which we have rejected, that which we have let go of or decided was only for others, but not us, can be our teacher. Let our time of worship be an acknowledgement of the never-ending journey toward truth and meaning, and our appreciation of those we learn from along the way. Come, let us worship together. The flaming chalice is the symbol of Unitarian Universalism. Each Sunday when we gather, we bring this symbol of life together. Please join me in speaking the words for the lighting of the chalice. Let us open our eyes to see what is beautiful. Let us open our minds to learn what is true. Let us open our hearts to love one another. Please rise in body or spirit for our opening hymn, This Little Light of Mine.
Today's story is called Whose Reality Is It Anyway? By Orlando R. Brugnola, adapted by Amy Peterson. Once upon a time, long, long ago, there was an average, perfectly ordinary town. In fact, everything about this town was ordinary, except for one thing. There was a storyteller in town. The storyteller had arrived one day without any advance notice. There had been no invitation, no request. The storyteller just showed up, took a great deep breath, and went about constructing a giant sign inviting all people, anyone and everyone, to come and listen to stories. And the storytelling began. There would be forests with huge and sometimes strange trees and mossy rocks, and rivers with golden fish swimming, and there were talking tigers, and a sly fox, and wise turtles, and a tall blue mountain with a peak with snow at the top, and a wonderful magic city on its slopes. And all the children listening to the stories wanted to listen forever because the stories made them feel amazed and happy. And they wanted to share their amazement and happiness with the rest of their families and anyone else who would listen. So they asked the storyteller if they could take part of the story home with them. And the answer was always, yes, of course. And so they did. "Look at what the storyteller gave me," the children would exclaim. But the elders would just reply, "You can't have that in the house. Tigers are much too loud. The turtles are too big. The rocks are too mossy, and that snow is going to melt all over the house. Take it back." And so the children went back to the storyteller with their heads hung low. "Our families won't let us bring anything home from the stories. Please help us," they said. The storyteller thought and thought about how to help the children of this very ordinary town. The next day, something began to happen in the town that got everybody talking. Things started showing up in unexpected places. A big tree right in the middle of the street, a kind tiger at the post office, a wise turtle at the breakfast table, and a huge blue mountain at the front door of a house. Nobody knew what was going on, but they were pretty sure they knew who was responsible. And so the townspeople went to the mayor to plead their case. "You have to do something about that storyteller. That storyteller has turned our town and our lives upside down." And so the mayor marched right over to the storyteller's house and knocked on the door. "Yes," came a kind voice from inside. "This has got to stop," said the mayor angrily. What has to stop?" asked the voice from inside. "All these things, these inconvenient things that are showing up everywhere," said the mayor. "Oh, you don't like them?" asked the voice, sounding surprised. "Are you kidding?" shouted the mayor. "Today I couldn't even get into my own house because there was a mountain in front of the door." "Well, why don't you just go through it?" asked the voice. "Go through it? It's a mountain. It's made of rock. What do you mean, go through it?" "But it's just a story mountain," said the voice. "All you have to do is enter the story. It's so simple. Just enter the story." The mayor was flustered and did not know what to do. So the mayor left to ponder this problem and to seek the help of the wisest teacher in the town. "I don't know what to do," said the mayor. "Everything in the town has changed. Everything is out of order and everyone is upset." Said the teacher. "Tell me more." And so the mayor talked about the tigers and the mountain and the turtle at the breakfast table and about what the storyteller had said. The teacher pondered this for a moment and then asked a question. "Why did you decide not to enter the story as the storyteller suggested?" Well, the mayor wasn't expecting this question. "I don't know, or at least I don't think I know. It just didn't make sense at the time, and really, I didn't know how. And then I got angry, and I just didn't want to." So the teacher asked, "What would you do now if you could do it over?" "I'm not sure," the mayor said. "I'm kind of afraid, although I'm not sure what I'm afraid of." "Okay," said the teacher. "New things can be unsettling, and most of us are reluctant to jump in or even to listen at all. But it can be really useful to look at things in new ways. We learn new things, and we can even have a lot of fun in the process." "But it's not easy," said the mayor. "After all, how do we know we will like how the story ends?" And the teacher said, with all the gentleness in the world, "Well, we don't know. All we can do is decide if we are willing to learn something new. We each decide whether we will allow ourselves to be amazed and delighted by the story in front of us, or if we will be closed to the magic of it. When a story shows up in our town or on our doorstep, it is an invitation to become listeners and learners. It is an invitation to become part of a beautiful dance as each of us becomes both creators of stories and receivers of wisdom. But we can't be either creators of stories or receivers of wisdom without first entering the story."
Okay, let us move into a time of centering and connection. Spirit of life, draw near. Help us to become more aware of the love that flows within and among us. Will you take a breath with me? In the presence of a love that holds us all, we use our chalice flame to light our candles of community. In this time when there is so much uncertainty about the future of our country, we light our first candle as a blessing for the wider world, with these words adapted from Kristen Green's prayer for our country. Many of us are worried, anxious, afraid. Who will uphold our basic human rights? Who will protect us from rollback on liberties? Who will lead us through the shadows? Who will remember us? Spirit of life and love, holy presence all around, embrace us with your wisdom and peace, surround us with reassurance, fill our hearts with purpose, empower us to do what is right. May our hearts be expanded as the time comes for us to comfort each other. May our minds be charged with creativity as we find our way forward. And may our spirits be guided by our values. We know, too, that the details of our daily lives are sacred and important. We now light a candle for all the simple joys that are sustaining us. And we light. Brenda shares, I am being tested on Friday to see if I qualify for a cochlear implant. This is a concern because hearing aids have never helped me, and if I don't qualify, my future looks very quiet. Also, it will be a joy to see my grandson Carson in Crazy for You this afternoon. And from John Owens, "Hoo boy, I'm grateful to have completed the Tour de Save 50-mile cycling road route on Saturday, finishing strong but exhausted. I invite you to settle into a silence of your understanding, holding the truth of our lives and of the world in our hearts." Amen and blessed be. Our reading today is Rules for Children in the Worship Service by C.B. Beale. 1. If you find that you're sitting in front of a child and they can't see, lean to the side. 2. If the children seating behind you are rustling papers, hand them a crayon. 3. If there is a baby that is crying, offer to take the baby from their parent and walk to the back of the church and rock the child for a while. The parent really needs a break. 4. If the teenagers are whispering, give them Smarties. The rustling and crinkling will replace their whispering. 5. If an adult complains to an usher about the noisy children near them, offer to trade seats with that adult and then apologize to the parents of the children. 6. When a child is running around giving everyone high fives during the time of passing the peace greeting with your neighbor, make sure to give them an extra fun high five and then high five the next 5 adults you see. 7. If a child has worn tap shoes to church and is dancing on the wood portion of the floor, slip the sheet music for The Entertainer to the pianist and roll with it. 8. When the children can't hear because an adult around them won't take off their puffy jacket and it keeps squeaking and distracting the children, offer to help them take off the jacket and go hang it up where it goes. 9. When the 3-year-old insists on standing on the front pew turned backwards looking at the rest of the people, give the child a pair of very dark glasses. That will prevent the child from catching any adult's eye, which would lead to distracting them. This will protect the adults who, as we know, have very short attention spans and are easily distracted. And 10. When a child in front of you is very squirmy and they finally turn around and you realize, oh, it's Jesus, take it in stride and play God. Oh, play got your nose till he turns around to the front again. We will now expand our circle of care as we gratefully give and receive our Share the Plate offering for the Minnesota chapter of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. This is one way we make our care for the world tangible. Will the ushers please come forward?
I am a seminarian, which means after college, I decided to go back for more college and become a minister, like Reverend Sarah is a minister. I took a bunch of classes, read a lot of books, and did a lot of homework. And most of what I learned in seminary boils down to learning how to think theologically. Can you all try saying that? Think theologically. Awesome, thank you. It's different congregation to congregation, but y'all did great. So I'll assume you know what think means. Theology is more or less the study of things related to God or religion. So to think theologically is to think about how things are related to religion. A religion like Unitarian Universalism, for example. There are 3 steps to thinking theologically. Step 1 is to read, watch, or do something. Step 2 is to ask yourself, what does this teach me about God? Or if you don't believe in God, what does it teach you about spirituality, or the universe, or the mysteries of life? There's a word we sometimes use to describe all of those things, the divine. Many people come to church because they want to learn about or be closer to the divine. So, step 1, read, watch, or do something. Step 2, ask what that teaches us about the divine. And step 3 is to reflect. What does that thing I just learned about the divine say about the world or my life? I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. A few minutes ago, we heard a reading by a UU social justice leader and religious educator named C.B. Beale. We have a picture of C.B. So let's take some of their words for step 1. Rule 10. When a child in front of you is very squirmy, and then they finally turn around and you realize suddenly, oh, It's Jesus. Take it in stride and play got your nose till he turns around to the front again. Great. Step 1, read something. Done. Step 2, what is CB saying about the divine? Well, here are some clues. Jesus was a great teacher and a religious leader who many people believe was related to God. That seems like a pretty clear place to start. So if someone in front of you has the wiggles, CB is saying they're not being rude, but they're acting like Jesus. This text is saying we can find Jesus, the divine, in everyone. Now, step 3. What does the idea that the divine is in every person say about the world or my life? If the divine is in every person, then everyone is special. And if I really believe that to be true about everyone, even the squirmy person in front of me, even my best friend, even the most annoying or horrible person I have ever met, and even myself, if I really believe that we are all important, then the way I treat each person should match that. And I might even need to change the way I behave. And look at that, by thinking theologically about just one sentence, we've come to a hint at how to live our lives in a more UU way. I'll pause here for a moment to pull back the curtain a little bit, because I wrote that first part of this sermon with second and third grade UUs in mind. I learned about being UU by volunteering as a religious educator when I was a teenager, and I worked as a religious educator for 12 years after that professionally. So doing theology with kids and youth is a huge part of my call to ministry, and so that's exactly how I started the sermon. And you probably picked up on some of my tricks, but here they are. First, it was short. It was well under 5 minutes, and I included visuals and interaction by showing a picture of C.B. Beale and asking you all to repeat Think Theologically out loud. I connected concepts to concrete things by using Reverend Sarah as an example of a minister and adjusting my description of seminary to match a 10-year-old's experience of school. I picked my words carefully. I still used some big words, but I took the time to define and explain them. I also built that first chunk of my sermon on the assumption that for kids and spiritually or theologically deep are not mutually exclusive concepts. I assumed that kids are curious about what church is all about, and that they can and do think theologically. And so if I did my job correctly, they would have no problem entering into this conversation. And even though I'm framing this as something written for 10-year-olds, it's actually good for people of all ages with all kinds of learning and access needs. And I bet if you think back on the sermon in a couple of days, you will remember more from those first 5 minutes than you will from the rest of whatever else I'm going to say this morning. Because there was more for you to grab onto, and more ways for more of your senses to connect with my words. Let's add some shading now to the practice of thinking theologically, because some people of all ages care about the nuance and get excited about the intellectual side of things. But first, can I get you to say think theologically again? Thank you. The word theology comes from Greek words for God and words or discourse. Historically, it refers to a study of the Christian God's word, but over the years, that definition has broadened beyond Christianity, beyond God, with some humanists like Anthony Pinn even taking it to refer to the study of the human condition. I'm using it today, meaning related to the divine, very broadly defined, or related to the values of a religious community. There are some things implied in the 3 steps of thinking theologically, which I should mention draw heavily on sacred reading practices like Lectio Divina. For one thing, sometimes the steps happen out of order. You might encounter a behavior and work backwards to construct the theological belief that that behavior is rooted in. Or you have that bolt of intuition that delivers clarity about all of the steps all at once. In whatever order it all happens, we are simultaneously determining whether or not we agree with the text or experience and its claim about the divine or about the world. And if you don't agree with the theological claim being made, you are also tasked with articulating why you don't agree with it and what claim you might offer instead. And let's not stop at just thinking theologically. Let's be in conversation with one another about the divine, and let's put our theological values into practice. In my mind, the purpose of theology is to give a community spiritual grounding and a collective reason to live lives of just action in the world. And here's a caveat. Anyone can go through the steps as written, but the openness to the possibility that the divine has something to teach and that that teaching might shift something about my life, that requires an attitude of curiosity. It requires us to enter into the story with all of its talking tigers and tall blue mountains and unknowns. And this is pluralism. This is one of our UU values, the ability to experience or learn about various theological claims with curiosity, not with the goal of disproving or dismissing, but with genuine openness to the possibility that there is truth within that claim. Now, part of this call to curiosity is also about knowing yourself, knowing your own religious history and baggage well enough to decide if the theology before you is something you feel safe and healed enough to be even cautiously curious about. And if the answer is no, that is understandable and okay. But in any case, when you are thinking theologically, it is important to check in. Is my resistance to this theological idea an indication of a problem with the theology itself? Or is it a result of my own hangups or lack of curiosity? And sometimes the problem is absolutely with the theology. But sometimes it's just more accurate to say, that doesn't work for me because of my specific life experiences, but I can understand how it might be meaningful for someone else. Another way curiosity comes into play is when our theology is calling us to something difficult. Curiosity can help reframe that from something horrible or negative into something possible. And by something difficult, I don't mean silent meditation or running into someone you don't like at coffee hour. I mean like coming to terms with just how much of white supremacy culture is present in the way that we do life and church, even as you use, and the changes that our theology asks of us. What happens when we approach that part of our theology that says we must change with curiosity? So let's assume that step one, read, watch, or do something, is UU theology, our shared values. And step two is that the divine is present in actions that move us toward the beloved community. Without curiosity about what this means we should do in the world, we run into resistance to change, a holding on to or yearning for the past, or shame for having done things wrong until now. Have you witnessed this before, especially when people are facing change? Or have you maybe done this before, had this experience in yourself? But if we're curious about what UU theology and the presence of the divine in just actions means we should do in the world, we're open to shifts in the ways that we do intersectional justice work. We're reflecting on the ways we have failed to recognize the divine in others, and instead of getting stuck in shame about that, we are filled with wonder about what will shift in our spirits and lives as we strive to do better in the future. I'm painting kind of a rosy picture here, but curiosity doesn't make it easy to do this. It isn't a promise that you'll find social justice work or UU theology straightforward from here on out. But it is to say that curiosity can create important space in a person to give a theological idea and its implied action item the consideration it deserves. I want to bring us full circle now as we come to a close and pull back the curtain once more, because the way we do church together is a theological statement. From the way we greet each other, to the placement of food, to the format of the worship service, we are putting on display the things we value as Unitarian Universalists. I would invite you to think theologically about all the things you love and all the things you wish were different about the ways that you do church, and to do so with curiosity. Church is one of the few places left in American society where people who are from different generations and are not related to each other get to come together and practice the beloved community. And so when I am granted the privilege of speaking from a pulpit, I bring that understanding of church with me. If you take the multi-generational format of this service as the theological statement that it is, and work backwards, you could come to a pretty solid guess about my Unitarian Universalist theology. Multi-generational worship is how I show up authentically as a guest preacher, and I'm grateful for your openness to it. I hope that your experience of today's multi-gen service about thinking theologically was one of spiritual depth and meaning. I hope that there were some pieces that sparked curiosity in you, and I hope you carry that with you into all of the theological claims and calls to action that you encounter ahead. May it be so. And let us sing together. Our closing hymn is number 1024, When the Spirit Says Do. That was totally in the spirit of the song, though, right? Go with it when the Spirit says. Beautiful. Well, with gratitude to Reverend Ali Casey Bell for these words, may we find the courage to revel in the experience of the mystery. May we approach the unknown with excitement, even if we can only muster a tiny bit. May we celebrate the curiosity that leads to searching, and may we meet ourselves along the way and love us unapologetically. We join in the words for extinguishing our chalice now. We extinguish this chain, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Please rise in body or in spirit, and with your hands over your heart or holding a hand of those next to you or whatever posture is most comfortable for you, we sing the words of blessing to one another.